Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. And would you believe it? It's already been 3 years since the Nexus 6P was released in 2015, and that means this month will be our last security update for this device as well as the Nexus 5X. So without any further ado, let's get started for our very final update. So of course we will need to download a few things, namely the SDK Platform Tools as we usually do. Just download the one down here for your operating system. You can select one of the three, and when you do, you need to agree to the above terms and conditions and then hit the blue download button. I'm going to be saving everything in one folder like this, and that's just to make it easier to handle all the files and stuff like that, but feel free to put it wherever you like, just as long as you remember where to put it. And the next thing we want to download is the latest factory image for our Nexus 6P. You might have to agree to some terms and conditions here before you can access the page. But once you've done that, on the right hand side, click on Angular for Nexus 6P, and then scroll all the way to the bottom of the table. And from there, you should be able to find the November 2018 security update, or our factory image of it. You can see that there aren't any other carrier-specific variants of this, so there's just one thing to download for everyone. So click on the blue download link, and also save that in the same folder as where we put everything else. The next thing we want to do is check that we have the latest version of TWRP. I don't think they've released any updates since last month, so the latest update should still be 3.2.3-0, and yes it is. But if you're unsure of which version you have, or you just want to flash it again anyways, feel free to download this image again. But if you already have it, you can still use the same image as nothing has changed. So download the TWRP image, or just find yours if you have it handy. And last but not least, or for at least normal users, you'll need to download the latest version of Magisk. I'm going to be choosing the beta version, which is 17.3, but feel free to use the stable version, or if you're feeling a little bit edgy, you can use the canary builds for the bleeding edge builds of Magisk. But I'll be using the latest beta version, but you can also use the latest stable version as well. Now I'm going to go over the downloads for people who are suffering from the boot loop of death. Now if you don't know what this is, you probably don't have it, but you might need it in the future. It's pretty much when the 4 big cores of our Snapdragon CPU pretty much die and our phone is unable to boot up with them, or it will crash, resulting in an unusable phone. But luckily there is a workaround here that restricts the usage to just the 4 small cores, so the first 4, and that will allow your device to work for a little bit longer, although it is not a permanent solution, so please don't rely on it too much. If you can, please get a new phone. Because your phone will go back into a boot loop eventually if it does happen at all. So here I've presented you with 2 options. You can actually do it using Osmosis's boot loop of death workaround injector, so this one that I've semi-highlighted. So you can download this zip file here that is flashable in TWRP, and you can also, you also need to download the patched TWRP image here that also supports file-based encryption. Now that part is not particularly important, but what's important is that it is patched to use only 4 cores, so that will allow your phone to boot a TWRP image. But if you don't really need a recovery or anything like that, and you just want the 4 cores and then but alternatively, I actually have some pre-patched boot images here, just in case you want to use that in conjunction with TWRP found in Osmosis's files in there. But what I have here are 2 image files, one called encryptable and one called no encrypt. Now, if you haven't decrypted your data partition, you want to select the encryptable one. And if you have decrypted your data partition, you want to select the no encrypt one to ensure that your phone doesn't actually encrypt your data partition again. But if you don't know what I'm talking about, then safe to say, then you can probably use the encryptable image, which should work for either use case anyways. So you can download one of these pre-patched images instead, if that's what you want to do. And I'll leave these links down below as well. So you'll either have this workaround injector and the TWRP image, or you'll have something like one of the pre-patched images that you'll flash instead. But you probably want to do this one, so you don't have to worry about getting the right version for your phone. This is only if you want to use a no encrypt image, I would say, in particular. But if you don't know what all this is, don't worry about it. You can probably just use this method here, where we'll flash the workaround injector and use the patched TWRP image, okay? So once you have everything downloaded, you should have something along the lines of this, at least, for our normal users. And for people with the BLOD or the boot loop of death, you'll just have these 2 additional files. And I'll let you know when you can use those. And to get started, we're going to open up the Platform Tools zip file here. We need to extract those somewhere. We're going to extract the entire Platform Tools folder into the Android folder, where everything else is. If you already have the Platform Tools, used somewhere else, maybe when you rooted your phone in the first place, or even from last month, feel free to use that again. I'm going to go inside the Platform Tools here, and this is where we need to open up our command prompt window, or our terminal window, or our PowerShell window in order to use these exe files here. They could be binaries on the other operating systems, but on Windows we have our nice executables. And to use an easy way to get the command prompt to work in this directory where all our exes are, you can do this on Windows. You can hold Shift and right click on an empty space inside the folder, and you should be presented with an option to open a PowerShell window here. And you can see at the top here, it is actually changed to our path where the platform tools are, which is what we need. If you don't want to use PowerShell, or you want to use the command prompt instead, you can do the same thing on older versions of Windows. But as a universal thing, at least the ones with an address bar, you can type in CMD in the address bar, hit enter, and that'll also open up a command prompt window into the same directory as your ADB files and fastboot files. But what I like to use is my console emulator, so I'm just going to do that, but you can just follow along with what I did previously just to get a command prompt window or a PowerShell window in the same directory. Okay, so once we've set up our command prompt thing, we can go back to the normal Android folder. Okay, so once we've gotten that ready, we can go back one folder into the Android folder where everything else is, and we're going to open up the factory image here, a really big file. We're going to go inside this folder, and then we're also going to extract the bootloader and radio images. These do require updates this month. And also we're going to open up our image zip file, and we're just going to grab the things that we need. We'll let this extract itself. Okay, we're going to highlight boot, system, and vendor and extract those 3 files outside, just where our Android stuff is. Okay, perfect. So once you've done that, we can close the image zip file, and we can also close the factory image. Now with everything here, we're now going to reboot our phone into the bootloader. Now with everything here, last thing we need to do is pretty much copy over the Magisk zip file to our phone. So I'm going to right click copy, and also on our phone, as usual, we're going to enable the USB mode to transfer files. And once you've done that, you should see it, your 6P come up on our computer, and just paste Magisk into the root of the internal shared storage. I'm just going to replace the file that I already had there. But once you've copied it on, you'll also want to copy over the boot loop of death workaround injector if you need that. But if you don't need it, don't worry about that. And there we go. So copy the things that you need to over to your phone. Of course, you can do this later in TWRP, but you might as well do it now, I guess, or anytime. But once you've done that, we need to reboot our phone into the bootloader. Now, if you have USB debugging enabled, you can do a quick way of rebooting our phone using the computer, but we're just going to do this the old-fashioned way. We're going to press and hold on the power button, and with the phone plugged in down below, we're going to press restart. And as soon as the screen freezes or turns black, we're just going to hold the volume down button like so, and just keep holding it until your phone boots into the bootloader. Okay, now once we're in the bootloader, we can go ahead and go back to our computer. Now on our computer, we need to type in the words or the command fastboot devices. This will return a serial number of any connected devices in fastboot, and you can match that up with the one shown on the screen, but that's the only phone I've plugged in, so it's safe to say that that is the one we're going to use. Next up, we're going to flash the new bootloader image. To do that, we're going to type in fastboot flash bootloader, leave a space after the word bootloader and drag in the bootloader image, hit enter. And once your phone has flashed the bootloader, we're going to reboot it back into the bootloader for it to take effect. So we're going to type in fastboot reboot -bootloader, hit enter, and our phone should reboot into the bootloader. Give it a moment. And once it's back in, we're going to flash the new radio image. So we're going to type in fastboot flash radio, leave a space after the word radio and drag in the radio image and hit enter. And once the radio image has finished, we're going to reboot into the bootloader once more. We're going to press the up arrow key on our keyboard to select a previous command that we typed in, just until you get to fastboot reboot -bootloader, hit enter, and wait for our phone to boot back into the bootloader. And once it's back in, we're going to flash the new boot image. So we're going to type in fastboot flash boot, leave a space after the word boot, and then drag in the boot image, hit enter. Once you've done that, we can move on to the system image. So we're going to type in fastboot flash system, leave a space after the system and drag in the system image. Since this file is quite big, it will take a little while for it to flash, so just give it a moment here. But in the case that you get an error for example, something to do with the sparse file, some error to do with that. Now, if you encounter any errors here regarding sending the sparse file over, you might want to check your drivers. You want to be using either the Google USB drivers recommended, or at least the Lee Mobile Android drivers. You can check in the device manager by right-clicking on your start button and going to device manager, and you should see your device plugged in either an Android phone or down here towards M and N with the Lee Mobile Android device, and it should say it's in the bootloader interface. So if you do have issues sending the sparse file, so that's either the system image or the vendor image, then you want to double check your drivers as well. But I'm going to fast forward this until it finishes, and we'll finish off the rest of the process. Okay, now that the system image has finished flashing, we're going to go ahead and flash the vendor image. So we're going to type in fastboot flash vendor, leave a space after that and drag in the vendor image, hit enter. Okay, and last but not least, we're going to flash the respective TWRP image. Now you don't have to do this if you're sure that you're on the latest version, but I'll show you what to do in case you don't think you're on the latest version, or you just want to flash it again to make sure. So depending on if your phone has the boot loop of death, or if your phone does not, you'll either choose the TWRP 4-core image that you can download from Osmosis's basket build, or you'll be using the official TWRP with no extra patches. So the command structure is exactly the same for both of these files, thank goodness. We're going to be typing in fastboot flash recovery, and then it's just up to you to choose the right one. So I'm going to do a demonstration of the 4-core variant of the TWRP recovery. So I'm going to flash that, but if you're just a normal user, please go ahead and flash the official TWRP instead. And once you've flashed your recovery, you can now go ahead and boot into the recovery mode. And you can do that on your phone by navigating using the volume buttons and down until it says recovery mode, and use the power button to select it. Now you're going to have to wait for your phone to boot into TWRP, but it shouldn't take too long, so just give it a moment, and I'll meet you once our phone's in TWRP. Okay, so once our phone is in here, you may need to decrypt your data partition. Just enter in your lock screen pattern, password, or PIN. And once you're in the main screen of TWRP, here's when you want to flash some stuff. So for the boot loop of death users, you want to flash the Workaround Injector now. So I'm just going to do that as a demonstration. But if you don't have the boot loop of death, please don't flash this. You're going to disable 4 of your cores for no good reason. Okay, so that's finished. We're going to go back. And as usual for everyone else, including the boot loop of death users, and now you want to flash Magisk. Of course, to reroute your phone, you don't have to if you don't want to root your phone. But let that do its thing, and it should be able to root our phone quite easily. Okay, so now Magisk has finished, and if you're done with flashing everything else, you can now go ahead and reboot the system. Now, if you're prompted to install the TWRP app, of course you can if you want to, but I prefer minimal stuff on my phone, so I'm going to uncheck that and press on Do Not Install. Now we should wait for our phone to turn on, and if you use the Workaround Injector for the boot loop of death, your phone may take a little bit extra to turn on since it's only using Okay, so our phone's booted up here. It's finishing its Android update. That's fine. Let's just unlock our phone. Let's have a quick look at the settings. And go to System and then About Phone. We can see now we're on the November security patch on the OPM7.004 build of Android. Let's also go into, wait for Magisk Manager to come up. Open that up and we should see that we're rooted just fine. Let's check out SafetyNet. I think it's passing today. Yes, it is, so that's good as well. Let's just open up CPU-Z to have a look at our cores. And for those who actually patched the boot image, you should only see the first 4 working and the last 4 stopped. And that's it for this video, guys. Our very last security update. So we'll be taking a look at some custom ROMs, hopefully, in the near future. Well, as soon as I'm done with the other videos, I guess. But yeah, we'll be taking a look at Lineage OS, I guess. I think there's the Pixel Experience as well. And we'll be taking a look at how those will fare up into a good replacement for stock Android. So until then, have a good one, guys. And as always, you can join us on Discord to chat about random things. Or if you need any help, you can also leave a comment down below and I'll try my best to get back to you within 1 to 2 business days. And as always, happy flashing.